Hi, everyone. Today we speak to Anthony and Arlo of Ask Mambo. They have this incredible AI information generator where you can find out different things about your beloved pet. If it's a rescue, what might its past have been if you fill in all the information you have? If you're seeing something you're not sure about, being able to get some information for your own peace of mind and maybe to bring to your veterinarian. So I'm so glad that Anthony and Arlo brought Ask Mambo to fruition, and I can't wait to hear what they have to say. Let's go listen. Hi, everyone. Debra Hamilton, and I'm so glad to be here with my two friends, Anthony and Arlu of Ask Mambo. Before we start, remember, if you like this podcast, please like it, please share it, please give it 5 stars, tell your friends, because these are the kind of discussions, why pets matter, that will help everyone live a better life with their pets. So now let's hear what Arlo and Anthony have to say. Hey, guys, welcome.
Hello there, Deborah.
Thank you so much for having us.
I am so glad you're here. We had such a great conversation the last time we spoke. I'm so looking forward to this conversation. But tell us a little bit about Ask Mambo, just a little bit, because we'll get into that deeper. And then I'll ask you our question that we ask everyone. So tell us a little bit about Ask Mambo.
Sure. So Ask Mambo is an AI assistant that's trained on your dog. So basically what that means, it's a resource to go to that learns everything about your dog. It remembers all the questions you ask. You could upload pictures from a vet report, so it remembers all that. Everything from diet to training. So it becomes this resource, this hub that you can go to and talk to and ask questions over time. It becomes this central location of information about your dog, which helps us fulfill our mission, which is helping people really build the relationship with that they have with their dog, be closer to their dog. So the more you understand your dog, the closer you can be.
So the more information you put in, the better you can help your dog moving forward.
You got it. Absolutely.
Great. Wonderful. So I'm going to start with you, Anthony. Why do pets matter to you?
Sure. Well, it's an interesting question. And it's something where they really bring you into the moment. They bring you into the present moment, right? So when you look at every single thing from a wellness perspective, just a healthy outlook in life perspective, it all starts with being in the moment. And that's what they do, right? I mean, they don't care about how much money you make, what you do for a living, where you live. They just care about that belly rub. They want to get that walk, they want to get that treat. And you sit down with them and everything's fine. Like the day melts away, you really enjoy your time with them. And they just continue to do that. That unconditional love that they bring, of course, is a really big part of it. But really those special little moments, when you're walking your dog and they look back at you, you have that little bit of eye contact, those are amazing little things. So, that also, all those little things add up to a really special relationship that you have with, all pets. I've had those moments with an iguana, oddly enough, and everything from a ferret to a guinea pig. Dogs are special, they really fill a unique place. But yeah, I think that's really why they matter. And that's why we started, Ask Mambo in the first place, to help more people have those moments.
I love that. It's so important. And I've had them with bearded dragons. So we do all sorts of reptiles here. It's not just dogs and cats and horses and birds, but all sorts of animals, because people have relationships with animals. Arlo, tell me your story about why pets matter to you.
Absolutely. Well, Anthony and I have actually been animal lovers from the time we've met. And actually, as of last week, Anthony and I celebrated our 25th year anniversary of being together. And if you look back at all those 25 years and even beyond that, there's always been an animal in our lives. When I met Anthony in 2001, he had a pug named Doug the Pug, who eventually became our beloved dog for 14 wonderful years. But going back to your question of why do pets matter, the simple reason, and I guess I'm taking off from what Anthony said, is that pets anchor us. They bring us to the present moment, and they don't really care what your resume is, how many follower counts you have, what the worst thing you did was. They just bring you back to this current moment. And that's what I fully appreciate with being with pets, because living in a world where there's just a lot of anxiety and that there's just a lot of things to worry about, the moment you spend 1 minute with your dog, everything just melts away. And the kind of uh, uh, perfect attention is rare these days, this unconditional attention. And that's something that's so precious that for me, animals provide. And so that's why, pets have always been such an important part of our life together.
I love that because really in this day and age, on so many levels, being able to unplug and be with your pet, and they're always unplugged. Thank God they can't read,
Oh, yeah.
and they can't watch television really, although some of them might. They really can unplug and help you unplug. So I love that both of you find that being in the present and being with them helps you live a better life. I read something this morning that a colleague of mine put up where this gentleman missed his daughter's wedding because his dog was passing away. And I
Oh, that's
sat there
hard.
and I went, wow, that's really a hard decision. And yet, with time and with some discussion, it really came to be that his daughter forgave him for missing her wedding because at a really tough time in his life, that dog helped him survive. So I know that both of you have probably felt that with your pets, that they bring this ability to get out of bed the next morning.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes they help you get out of bed. They'll jump on your head. They'll kind of, come on, let's go. You're running late today. We got to get downstairs. So
Yeah.
it's always good to have those little moments for sure. It makes a big difference. And when
I
you,
know I have two of those now, and the English Cocker Spaniel would never get out of bed. She would stay in bed forever, and the Irish Setter is the one pounding on you saying, come on, get up, seize the day.
right, it's nice that you have that balance. That's good.
Yeah, I have that balance. So now what really precipitated you starting Ask Mambo? Was there something that happened or you saw a spot in the market that wasn't filled? And I have so many questions I want to ask you because having that information for yourself is one thing, and then sharing that with the caregivers who might be caring for your pets is another question I have. So start with how it all started.
Sure.
Yeah. So, well, as I said, we've always been dog lovers. And most recently, we welcomed two rescues in our lives. So we had a Shih Tzu Maltese named Murph, whom we rescued from the Humane Society in 2014. And then probably 2 or 3 years later, we rescued a Shih Tzu named Mambo. And together, the four of us became the pack. And you know how it is when you have a dog in your life. Oh, it was just a lot of laughter, a lot of adventures. And of course, over time, with Mambo, he developed some health complications. And those complications eventually became more serious, which is why, as of last June, in June of 2025, we had to say goodbye.
Ah, I'm
And
so
oh,
sorry.
and Mamba was such a pure energy in our lives. He was fun. He had these big Disney puppy eyes. Oh, he was
Really
adorable.
special.
And with his passing, we just realized that that deep bond that we had with Mambo was something that we also wanted to help other dog parents recreate with their own relationships with their own dogs. And so that's why we said, let's try to see what we can do with the potential of AI and see how we can take that technology into the pet space. And thus, Ask Mambo was born. So what we did was we wanted to create something that would help pet owners deepen the relationship, and so we crafted the personality of Ask Mambo to be friendly, to be helpful and compassionate. So we were very mindful about that, and over time it became responsive to any questions you may have about your dog, be it diet, training, behavior, aging, and ultimately even grief when a pet passes away. So that is the resource that we created for Mom, and we're very excited for people to try it out themselves.
So, how do you go about feeding the information into Mambo so that it isn't just AI generated, but say peer reviewed or supported? Because we just finished a 3-part New York State Bar Association program on bereavement and loss. And
Hmm.
it was one of the best attended animal law
Oh, I'm sure.
programs that we've ever had. And believe it or not, it wasn't for CLE, continuing legal education, until the last day. And yet we had a sustained 100 to 150 people participating in understanding grief. So tell me how you're finding the information, because of course, I also work in the vet field, so they're very skeptical of AI and what AI is going to say, and they hate Dr. Google. So how do
Understood.
you help your owners get information and then use that information for good and not evil? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's a great question. I mean, AI is a double-edged sword, right? It's this powerful, really unique thing that we're all learning about, but it can hallucinate, it can do some really weird things. And then when you're thinking about health, you don't want those worlds to collide ever. So when we built Ask Mambo, we built it on top of the largest data set in the world through ChatGPT. We're built on top of the ChatGPT infrastructure. So it's layered on top of all the information that feeds into that. And that comes from a lot of different, public sources. Some are academic, some are from veterinarians, some are from behaviorists, some are from, studies that were done. So it basically pulls all in as level one. Then level two is when you first sign up. The first question we ask you is what's your dog's name? Not what your name is, but what your dog name is. And we did that, tongue in cheek a little bit to show that we really are focused on the dogs first. So we ask about, the age, the breed, all the information about the dog itself. And then from that point forward, it starts learning. It starts saying, like looking at the questions that you ask, remembering the answers. You could take pictures of a vet report, upload that. It'll remember all of that. So it provides context as it goes on for all future questions. And we're still in beta. We just launched in October, so we're still kind of in beta mode, and we're ingesting, adding to, partnering with different organizations to have a lot of original information in there. That's one of the next things that we're doing. Now that we have the base infrastructure built up, we really want to layer in all those different voices of expertise to get it stronger and stronger and stronger. But what's really cool about it, the more you use it, like we were saying, the more insightful it gets. So, you can actually take a picture, let's say, of a dog food label. You're in the dog food store, and there's like a 30-foot wall of all these pet treats. You don't know which one to get. Take a picture of one that you think might work, upload it and say, would this be good in our case for Murph? It'll say, yeah, this has a lot of good healthy ingredients in it, but remember, Murph has some kidney issues, so be careful with salt intake and some sodium levels and some other aspects that are unique specifically to your dog. So it's kind of cool. It's a nice little thing, and we've used that a bunch of times just in terms of something that's really practical and helpful. So that's kind of where we're at now, where we're going with increasing the amount of voices of expertise and different people that we're partnering with.
I love that, because it gives the pet owner some sense of stability when they're looking for things to sustain their animal. They can ask questions, I presume, what's the benefit of having Murph, say, chew a greenie, and what are the risks? So that you know the risks, because on packages sometimes it does say in very small print, never leave your pet alone when chewing, say, on a greenie. However, people often give them the greenies and go to work.
Right. And to your point, usually it's like a 3-point text. So how are you going to see that? So yeah, it is.
Especially since we're over 21 and we
Right.
need glasses now to see stuff.
Right, exactly. Maybe a magnifying glass, actually.
Yeah.
For sure. So if we could be that little voice that helps them, make better decisions along the way, that's fantastic. We've done our job.
And how does Ask Mambo say that in a way that is thoughtful and not scary for the pet owner, while also enabling the pet owner to maybe build some really good questions? Say they're going to the vet because the animal is having some issues. They've loaded all the issues into Ask Mambo, a vet's nemesis, I can say. And what kind of questions can they ask that are non-confrontational, but rather curious?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that, because we love our vet. That we have a great relationship with all the vets over the years that we've had, and they have the Dr. Google question, which nobody likes, right? You're not ever questioning anyone's authority. What we come from the perspective of is we really want to prepare our members for when they do have a vet visit, so they're better prepared. They're more informed. They can ask questions that are based in fact and based specifically on what their dog is going through. So, for example, if your dog has a little strange thing on their toe, let's say it's a skin issue, you take a picture of that. You ask Mambo, say, I'm not sure what this is. Is this anything to be concerned about? And it'll give you like a little bit of information. But we always say, time and time again, go to your vet, ask your vet for anything that's urgent or concerning at all. This is just meant to augment, to help, to kind of layer in and start that conversation. And it'll actually say, do you have a vet appointment? Are you going to go see the vet? Yes, I'm going to go later on today. Here's some ways that you could phrase it to your vet to show that you're concerned and to say, maybe, is it this or is it that? But in a way where you're not saying, hey, make sure I think it's this. What do we know? The vet is the master there. So it really starts the conversation, informs the conversation, and brings their nerve level down. Because it is when you see something in your dog or they're acting a little strange, all of a sudden you get really, really worried. So it's a matter of saying, hey, here, tell me the facts. I'll tell you the facts that are based on that, and I'll prepare you for your vet visit a little later.
So it's not like telemedicine, or does it offer to call telemedicine as an augmentation to Ask Mambo? So Mambo might say, well, I'm really concerned about this. You might first start with telemedicine and veterinary medicine if your vet offers it. And if not, then make sure you go to the vet, because I don't know what this is. It could be nothing. It could be something. So you're not having Ask Mambo fill the position of the all-knowing. You're actually just creating something that's giving people information that they can then use to hopefully make sure they make an appointment.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think ultimately it's emotional reassurance. Like in our case, when we rescued both dogs, actually, when you rescue a dog, there are a lot of questions. You don't know what their background was. You don't know what kind of childhood they had when they were being raised. And so a lot of those question marks just manifest themselves in terms of the dog's behavior. And so suddenly the dog starts acting a little funny, a little silly, and then you're left in the dark. So what we wanted to at least assist dog owners in was just for them to have a starting point, and probably just, okay, these are the possible options of what your dog is going through. But ultimately, if it's serious, we always do direct them to the vet. But at least some kind of emotional reassurance that, okay, you're not alone. Let's sort this out. This is the information out there, and let's work this through. So it's almost like holding their hands, which we hoped we had when Mambo was going through all his complications. It was rather grueling, and this is the kind of service that we hope we had when Mambo was in dire health.
So it's like a research tool. So if I call up and say, this is what I'm seeing, or this is where I got my pet, and this is what they told me his past was, or her past was, what are your thoughts on what she might be going through or what she might go through? And then you can add on to it, well, the last 2 days have been terrible. She's been chewing the drywall. What can I do? Kind of things. And does it, because I think it's really important to not only give you some thoughts in Ask Mambo, but say, and if you want to learn more, go to this recognized peer-reviewed trainer or that recognized peer-reviewed social worker or someone, if it's a bereavement thing, so that you can not only be an AI, we all don't want to go into AI into the catacombs and not come out, but that you can be helped to find outside information as well.
100%. It starts a conversation. So again, it prepares you for that visit, but we're also becoming a community really for dog parents. And by that, I mean literally a physical community where, coming up in the spring, we're going to have a giant mixed breed meetup, because the majority of pet owners, the biggest breed isn't really a breed at all, it's mixed breed. So we're going to speak to them, have a bunch of people come together for that. And then an online community site where when you do ask questions about bereavement, about grief, and sometimes it helps to talk to somebody about that sort of thing. And again, not to get into being a therapist or psychiatrist, just another dog owner, just to kind of, relate back and forth. So we're going to be expanding to offer that as well. So the AI is really a place that starts a conversation, and it does give you like links out to studies, to academic sources, because we don't want to just say, hey, here's a fact, and like, where did this come from?
Yeah, we don't want anecdotals. We want anecdotals are great, and they'll get you over the hump, but here's what you might want to look into, because I don't really want to read a 25-page study when I'm upset, but I do want to read the 25-page study when I have a minute and I'm composed myself. So how many people have been part of this beta, and how's it looking?
It's looking really well. I mean, growth has been beyond our expectations. There are, what is it, about 45 different breeds that we're currently servicing. We have members all the way from New York to California, and we're seeing a lot of growth in the Midwest and also in the South. And that also correlates to areas where there aren't a lot of vets, so we see increased questions there. So it's an interesting gap there in the market. But what we're seeing is a lot of mixed breed owners. When we did a study, they have the most questions overall, which makes sense because, like Arlu said, like when you get a mixed breed, you don't know what you're getting. We like to say you're getting a mystery, not a manual. So we want Ask Mambo a little bit to be that kind of that manual and fill in the gaps. So we are seeing a lot of sign up growth and a lot of word of mouth. Like we have an Instagram, Ask Mambo on Instagram, and a lot of people join that and they follow us there. They start different conversations. So we also get some insight into different breeds and how people are feeling about them, different questions that pop up there. And we're also going to be launching a podcast specifically for Ask Mambo, where every week we go through 3 top questions that people are asking and talk a little bit about that. So it's really, there's an educational aspect to it, but it's like a fun educational aspect. When we're dog parents, you really want to learn everything you can. So this is just one more way to do that.
I love
Another thing we were also looking to do is by looking at the data and seeing how we can also have some fun with it. So we were thinking maybe down the line, we're think of coming up with a personality profiler for dogs, just so that it's just one more thing for you to get to know that creature sitting next to you on the couch, and just get to know it a little better, just to have fun with it.
Absolutely. And have you started affiliating with any of the veterinarians or veterinarian social workers to help bring that on board as well so that you can have them available? Or this is mostly AI, and you will recommend that people who are using it go to articles which then will identify the veterinarians or veterinary social workers who might be talking about the issue, either bereavement or medical, that they could get in touch with?
A little bit of both. The first level, when somebody has the immediate questions, is the answers and then links to where those answers came from. So that would be tier 1. Tier 2 would be, and this is what we're building out into next year, is actually connecting them with the behaviorists, with the professionals in the space, that they can really continue that conversation and get the help that they need there. So again, it really becomes that hub, so much so that like when you have a vet appointment and you're going back and forth about a specific issue, it'll say, do you want me to prepare these notes that you could literally text over to your vet, so they have a little backstory before you even get there, which is really nice, because then the vet can say, okay, these are the questions, this is like the mindset that this person has coming into this appointment, so you can understand in context why they're asking those sorts of questions. So again, it helps the pet owner, but it also helps the vet contextualize and service their patients even a little bit more. They have more of the story.
I think that's a great idea. That's something that I always ask veterinarians to do before they meet their clients. So to have the client proactively do that would be great. And how have you, what I do is I help people who sort of disagree. They're in conflict over an animal. So how do you keep the disagreements that might arise either in the chat groups, or if they're disappointed in the information, or if they go to a vet and say, the vet said Ask Mambo's information was terrible, even though it might not have been, but it was because of the defensiveness and the reactivity that sometimes occurs with people walking in with information. Have you had any of that, and how have you handled it?
Really good question. We haven't had any of that just yet. But at the end of the day, we're very data-backed, fact-based. Being a dog parent is anything but. It's very emotional, right?
It's very emotional, right? So even if you tell me, I'm just going to get mad.
Right. And we're not parents of physical human children, so we just have our dogs, so we're just dog parents. But so many parallels there. So for something like that, we would just continuously go back to the facts. This is what we're saying. This is why we said what we said. Every case is unique. Every doctor is going to have their own point of view, which is completely valid. Again, we just like to be a starting point, provide a little bit more guidance, a little bit more support, when they need it to shape where things go.
I love that. I love that because, getting the information and bringing it to your vet is really important. There were several articles in the veterinary industry magazines that were talking about some vets have actually ventured forth into enabling clients to ask questions. These are the questions. This is how you should couch it. And I sat there and I said, "Are we sharing these questions with the veterinarians who are hearing them?" Because often the reception is not necessarily the best. And so here I come in with all this information. You guys are creating questions as well. Have you pressure test them with veterinarians whether or not a veterinarian would take kindly to the questions you're suggesting they ask for whatever reason? It could be a bad day. It could be just the way they feel when people ask them questions. Have you done that? Because that's the thing that has been so remarkable to me is that we really have to couch questions in a way that support the shared decision making over the pet.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And with our own vet, we've gone through and we say, hey, look, we're seeing these things. What we found in doing some research, with AI, with Ask Mambo, it said this. What do you think about that? Does that make sense? Because what we put in was X, Y, and Z in terms of why it gave us that information. So it's really all about context. And at the end of the day, every vet will probably say that they're there for the pet as much as the person. They really want to make sure that the pet is as healthy as they can be. We're all animal lovers at the end of the day. So I think that really does help contextualize it. And you step away from that conversation knowing this is going to be good for the dog based on what they know, and then they also know, the vet also knows that AI is saying these sorts of things. These are the types of questions the dog parent has. And it helps you understand that dog parent a little bit more too, from a patient doctor perspective. I imagine that strengthens the relationship. I know with our vet, we consider her a friend. I mean, you go through some tough times with them, and you bond.
And the
Absolutely.
relationship, the relationship has been more symbiotic than adversarial. Specifically, just in the recent past, after Mambo passed away, Murph, he started behaving rather oddly in that whenever we'd step out of the house, we were notified that he would start howling, not barking, howling. And all these years that we've had, Murphy's always been such a quiet, low-key dog, and suddenly he's howling loudly. And so we went to Ask Mambo, and then we said, hey, this is going on. And so there were certain suggestions that came up, and one of that was Murph was probably lonely.
Yeah.
He lost his brother, and now there's he leaves the house. We leave the house, and he's all alone. And so there were certain suggestions. Of course, the usuals: spend more time with him, take him on longer walks. But it also suggested that we start a conversation with our vet about dog anxiety, which is something that we've never dealt with before. But it did start a conversation about medications and whether Murph is a candidate for that. But if anything, it did get us to ask questions that we would not have otherwise asked about, if not for Ask Mambo bringing it as a possible, hey, why don't you check this out? It might just be that he's anxious. So we see it as a compliment to the vet practice than anything else.
For sure.
And maybe he was grieving over Mambo. And I know that there's so many studies now that want you to enable the dog that survives to see the dog who passed. So they have closure. They do that in horses as well. And if you ever study elephants, all the elephants gather around and say goodbye to a family member. So those are the things that sometimes enable pets to deal with their grief and bereavement. It's a real thing, especially if they're two dogs living together their whole lives. Mambo came later than Murph, but Murph was like the big brother. And so where's my little brother? It's really hard. I'm so thrilled that you guys are starting this, that you're putting out there. How can people get in touch with you? How can they find you? How can they read your newsletters?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's easy. We're at askmambo.com. So you just go there. It's a free service, by the way. We haven't mentioned that so far, but it's all completely free. You sign up at Ask Mambo, answer a few questions about your dog, and that gives you access to Ask Mambo. We're launching the community on social media. We're at Ask Mambo as well. So you could feel free to reach out to us there. For anyone listening that's in the veterinary space, watching in the veterinary space, we're open arms. We really want to connect with as many veterinarians as possible to really fulfill that aspect of being professional and having a lot of really good resources at the end of the day to help people get closer to their dog.
Right. And it's not that you're holding yourself out as professionals. Rather, you're hoping to work in consortium with professionals so that people can actually find information that's really good, that's pressure tested, while they're waiting to get to see their vet, because sometimes we have a long time before we can see our vets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that time that you have to wait could be so harrowing if you have no information, or worse, information that says two different things. With something says this on Google, it says this on Reddit, you don't know where to go, what to believe in.
So I'm so glad both of you are here, Anthony and Arlo. And Ask Mambo, everyone. Don't forget to Ask Mambo. Thank you both for being here. And until next time, make sure you kiss your dog, your cat, your bird, your horse, your lizard, anyone. Like us, give us 5 stars, and share us, because all this information is because pets matter to us. This is Debra Hamilton. Take care. 10 years ago, with my iPhone and a script, I recorded the first episode of the Ultimate Pet Resolution Summit, which chatted with experts about conflicts over animals. Our conversations were intimate, honest, and illustrated how disagreements over animals occur and how those disagreements can reshape people's lives and relationships. In November 2019, I started Why Do Pets Matter, a new podcast that continued these informative discussions. I'm so excited to have you here with me, continuing my exploration into a more meaningful conversation about why pets matter to all of us. My guests and I will share ideas, stories, and experiences straight from the heart, unscripted and holistic. From the bravest moments to the most brokenhearted, we will explore how to resolve disagreements over animals differently. One thing I know for sure is I want to have more meaningful conversations that will help all of us unlock that deeply felt human-animal bond that drives the emotions of conflict.